Shalom. First, let's start by saying all praise to Yahweh, Bashim Shai, Bashim Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles that were well, and salutation to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Now, as you can see, the title is, so I can give me 1 second. Dang, my bad. $80,000 furloughed as bus industry grinds to a halt. Now, the word furlough is a verb which means to grant leave of absence to, lay off workers, especially temporarily. So a lot of people being laid off, man. A lot of people being laid off temporarily. A lot of people actually being laid off permanently due to them not receiving funding in this bus company. But that's prophecy, and everybody being affected at what's going on in the world in general, but in particular in America, because the Lord is bringing this place down, and that's the time we living in, the time of this place coming down. But Jake and them don't seem to understand it. They don't want to understand it because it's prophecy. The Lord said 2/3 of his people is going to be killed. So they get what they deserve. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. America is being plucked up. A lot of people are dying because of prophecy and because 2/3 will be cut off. A lot of people being born just for their judgment of death. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. America is getting broke down. The time of building up, the new time of building up is when the kingdom gets built up, man. A time to weep and a time to laugh, and a lot of people are weeping, and the laughing is ceasing. A time to mourn and a time to dance. There's a lot of mourning. The dancing, people still doing the little dances, but them dances is ceasing too. A lot of that laughing ceasing. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. Slakia. Right, man. So, I'm stopping right there. Right, man. So we got all this stuff going on in this place America, and it's straight out the Bible, man. And people don't want to adhere to it, man. But everybody be being affected behind the stuff that's going on in America, man. So I'm gonna play this clip. Look, Salaki said, and he said it at the end of this clip too. He said, "Have to laugh to keep from crying. Business on struggles amid pandemic." Right? He said it at the end. He had to laugh and make jokes to keep from crying. And the scripture just said, "Time for crying and stuff, man." But I'm going ahead and play it.
Douglas Reese typically makes 250 trips a year driving buses for Georgia Coach.
Salakia.
Douglas Reese typically makes 250 trips a year driving buses for Georgia Coach.
There goes Satan. How does I even play it at the end, but I'm going to read it. It says Clarence Cox took over a 35-year-old motor coach business from his father and uncle and had hopes of one day giving it to his daughters. But with a $5 million fleet parked for months during a pandemic and no federal aid, his goal now is just to make it to the end of 2020. His business, Georgia Coach Lines, is one of thousands of small family-owned bus companies across the U.S. urging Congress to approve immediate aid. Unlike the airlines or Amtrak, the motor coach industry hasn't received any funding from the 2.2 trillion CARES Act passed by Congress in the spring. Southwest Airlines wants workers to pay cuts to avert furloughs. To take pay cuts to avoid furloughs. But meanwhile, they're taking pay cuts, but the prices and everything around you is rising, which is making a lot more riots, especially across seas. You get a lot of those riots across seas. Peter Pentizzo, president and CEO of the American Bus Association, said, "I can't really identify for you why we have not been included. Buses provide 6 million passenger trips a year, second only to commercial flights." Pantuso said 80,000 of the industry's 100,000 employees have been furloughed this year. He said the American Bus Association said the industry usually sees $15 billion in revenue a year. In 2020, the bus companies only brought in $4 billion. The motor coach industry, along with the school bus industry and passenger water vessel companies, are now collectively asking Congress to approve $10 billion in loans and grants. Every small business, I think, across America is hurting at some level, Pontuso said. But there are very few other industries that are almost completely shut down with no hope of coming back for at least 6 months. It says next year, and then it'll be a slow recovery. It says part of the recovery of Cox business has meant purchasing special cleaning equipment and adapting buses for safer travel during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm so sick of hearing Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi arguing back and forth about the amount of money. With Nancy, it's all or nothing. With Steve, it's like, well, this is what the president said. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, all of us are sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to eat next week. Cox said. Cox 16 drivers have been furloughed. One of them, Douglas Reese, has sat at home for months at a time this year, relying on unemployment that he says will run out in early November. You're still sitting at home, but your bills are still coming in. You still got a mortgage to pay, and you got to eat, Reese said. He has only driven 8 trips this year compared to the total 250. It says one of those trips was to transport members of John Lewis' family during his funeral late July. I was very honored by that, and it was touching. And most of the time on the trip, I was right behind the hearse. So I'm looking through the windshield, staring at the back of the hearse, looking at the flag covering up the casket, Reese said. Reese will also typically be driving groups of students in field trips, tour groups, sports teams, and TV or film crews to their sets. Georgia Coach Lines even sends buses to hurricane zones sometimes to assist with evacuations in areas hard to reach by plane or train. The bus industry also serves many people in this country who cannot afford to hop on a plane. Cox said his message to elect leaders is to unite and get something done. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I make jokes, but I make jokes because I'm so angry. I have to laugh to keep from crying, he said. Right, and that's what Jake them get, man. Because Jake them been laughing at us for the longest, man. Us men that's out there doing this work is the city and truth, man. Damn. Salakia. This is Luke 6:25-27. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe to you that laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. Right, and that's what they get, man. You know, they laughed at the prophets, now they mourning and weeping and stuff, man. This is Isaiah chapter 19. Slacker. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 14. It says, "The Lord hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do in head or tail," meaning those at the top or those all the way at the bottom. You know, so that's what you're gonna get, man. But that's something really quick. That being said, call Allah Yahweh Shai. Give honors to the elders and apostles of the well. And salutations to the brothers who's doing the truth and sincerity. Shalom.